Good evening, universe. Tonight I'm going to be doing the Where My Lore Started tag created by Carrie Can Read. This basically just goes over books that you read in your past. I'm so excited to get into it. It looked really fun when she did it. So here we go. Question number 1 is, what is the first book you remember reading by yourself? The earliest memory I have of reading silently to myself is I was reading in a car with my brothers, and one of my older brothers got annoyed that I was reading out loud and told me to be quiet. So I started reading silently instead. I don't remember exactly what book this was, but it was Dumbo or Bambi. It was some kind of Disney picture book type thing. And this, I am from the 90s. I was born in 91. So it would have been one of those earlier animated Disney movies. Question 2 is, what character did you identify the most with in elementary school? And for this, I think I'm gonna pick Klaus from A Series of Unfortunate Events, just because he was so bookish and always asking questions and was kind of curious. I really resonated with reading a lot, and I didn't feel quite like an eldest sort of inventor child like Violet, but I really loved the Baudelaires and really wanted to be like them. And so I think Klaus was probably the character I resonated the most with in elementary school. Question 3 is, what were your elementary school comfort books? And I have a pretty good handful of these. The first one, like I said, I'm a 90s kid. It came out around this time. I did love Harry Potter for a lot of reasons. I don't have the same attachment that I used to with it. And in light of the author, I just wanted to say that I have some support links down below for any trans people, or if you happen to have some extra cash, you can make a donation to one of these companies that are helping out trans people, just because J.K. Rowling has been particularly heinous lately, and we should be supporting trans people. But I did, unfortunately, love Harry Potter as a kid. I read that series so many times, especially the first one. The first one I remember telling someone in 4th grade that I had read it 18 times because I just loved it so much. But it wasn't the only comfort book. A little bit earlier than that, I had this book with, it wasn't a picture book, but it did have illustrations, and I don't remember the name of it, but it had magical ice skates in it, these ice skates that glowed, and it was about a girl who wanted to be an ice skater. I don't remember the plot of it at all, but silver skates, maybe. I'm not sure. I think she had a necklace that also had skates on it. She just loved skating, and I loved that book. I read it all the time. I took it everywhere with me. I also loved The Babysitter's Club. That was a huge series for me. My favorite character was Claudia, and also Witch, which I really loved. When the first issue came out, it was fully comic is the version that I had. I don't know if they have a version of it that's, because the Witch series is half partial graphic novel. It'll have graphic novel pages at the beginning of the book and at the end of the book, and then in the middle is text, all text. Those were the versions that I read, except for the first issue, which was all comic and full color, and I loved the art style so much and the characters. It definitely felt like Sailor Moon kind of thing, because it's about magical girls who transform and then have elemental powers. So that really was something that I adored. And I remember I got it from the Scholastic Book Fair, and I was so excited, and I was very obsessed with it for a while. Question 4 is, what was your safe space as a kid? For me, I think I really loved the classroom. I loved learning, and I definitely would have qualified as a teacher's pet. I loved my teachers. I also really was obsessed with Dragon Ball Z at this age. I think starting when I was 9 or 10, maybe even younger, maybe 8, somewhere in there. I saw the Frieza saga of Dragon Ball Z on Toonami for the first time, and I became so obsessed with it. So watching Dragon Ball Z with my brothers definitely felt like a safe kind of moment for me. And also video games. I really went to video games when I was feeling down, especially Final Fantasy IX, my all-time favorite game. I still love it to this day. I think it's an incredible game and deserves more recognition. Although it is getting a lot more of that now. But yeah, those were the areas that I went to when I was feeling down or sad or needed to kind of get through my emotions. Question 5 is, how have your tastes changed in reading since childhood? And my tastes are pretty much the same. I love fantasy still. I have always loved fantasy. It's my favorite. I still love a good mystery, like A Series of Unfortunate Events. Yeah, pretty much the same. Fantasy across the board still works for me. Question 6 is, did you feel encouraged to read by your school? Did your school encourage you to continue reading? And yes, my school did. I don't remember exactly what it was. It's been a long time since I was in elementary school, but they had some sort of like reward program for kind of like a competition for whoever read the most. And I remember this very vividly because I read the most one year and I was so excited to be the kid that read the most in the whole school. And I got some kind of like certificate of the most nerdy kid, and I felt so special for reading so much. It's because I was reading an epic fantasy series, and I read the whole thing over the course of like the elementary school year. So it ended up being a lot of pages, which is what they were counting. So I read 3,000 pages that year, and it was the most of the other kids. And it felt so magical. But other than that, I don't know what else they did to encourage reading. I think there was like a thing where you write how much you read over summer break or like on the weekends, that kind of thing, like have your parents sign off. Yeah, so they overall did encourage us to read. Question 7 is, what book have you wanted to return to lately? Honestly, there aren't really any books from elementary school that I really want to return to. I'm pretty happy with my memories of them staying memories. I did start doing a rereading of A Series of Unfortunate Events a couple years ago, but it didn't really go very well. The series still holds a lot of magic for me, but I don't know if I need to do a reread of any of these books. Yeah, I feel like even though I still love fantasy, my tastes have like, I don't want to read my childhood series anymore. I want to read new stuff. I will say, I was recently talking about that epic fantasy series that I read. I could revisit that. But even that, looking back, I'm like, I don't know if I would really enjoy it if I read it now. It just captivated me because it was the first time I had read. I don't even know if it counts as epic fantasy. I don't know if it's quite that scale, but it had like political intrigue and lots of princes and dragons and stuff like that. And it was the first time I had read an adult fantasy. So I don't think it would hold quite the same charm for me. However, the author was Melanie Ron. The series was the Dragon Prince series. That author also wrote another series, and it was a trilogy. And she wrote the first 2 books in that series and then never wrote the 3rd book in the trilogy. If she came out with the 3rd book, I would be all over that series again, because I still have to know what happens. It haunts me to this day. I absolutely loved the first 2 books. Something happened at the end of the 2nd book that I wasn't as big of a fan of, but I still love those books, and I would love to finish that trilogy if she ever finished it. The next question is, what was your favorite and formative YA series? For this, I think the answer is Daughters of the Moon. I really loved this series when it was coming out. I was reading them as they were being released. I think the first couple were out by the time I started reading it, and then I had to wait for each one to be released. And this book series was about, it's like an urban fantasy series where the main characters are all like daughters of the moon goddess, hence the title. I think that's what's going on. And they all have like a magical power that is their own. So like there's Vanessa, who can basically turn invisible, but she she spreads out her molecules. It is how it's described, until she like becomes a cloud, an invisible cloud that can like fly away. And then there's Caddy, who can go back in time, and Jimena, who I think can see the future, and either Serena or Selena, one of the two, and she can read minds. And I loved this series. It was very, I don't know how to explain it. It definitely captured that 90s urban fantasy sort of feeling. Like, it feels kind of like supernatural, kind of a Shadowhunters sort of vibe, because there were like the evil guys that they had to face down. And yeah, definitely, I can definitely see it making me like Shadowhunters later when I discovered Shadowhunters. So I read those in middle school and I really enjoyed those. Also, later in high school, loved Twilight. Definitely, you know, your high school tastes. But I had such a good time with those books initially. I was fully obsessed for a minute, but I did have a phase before I started reading them where I was extremely against them. I thought they were, you know, destroying the face of vampires, and I was really upset about it. But then when I read them, I was like super into them. Question 9 is a book that you read in school, but ended up loving. A lot of school books were misses for me. I did not enjoy most of my school reading. Well, not in high school, but in elementary school, I did like a lot of what I read. So I loved Holes when I read it. In elementary school, I loved Walk Two Moons. I have no idea if these still hold up or if they have weird elements, but these were the books I loved when I was a kid. I also loved The Giver, and that is actually one that I could see myself revisiting, is The Giver and then the 3 other books in the Giver series. I think those would still stand up today, probably. I really loved those in elementary school, but in high school and middle school, I hated everything that they were making us read. Question 11 is, if your 13-year-old self could live in a fictional world, what would it be? And would you choose something different now? Once again, 13-year-old me definitely would have gone to Hogwarts. Unfortunately, that's the truth of the matter. I definitely wouldn't go to Hogwarts now, though. I don't know what fictional world I would like as an adult. A lot of them have a lot of problems. I really love my life that I have on Earth now. You know, and like questions like, can I take my wife with me? Is there coffee in the new fictional world? These are important questions that I need to consider before I go anywhere. I will say maybe the world of Strange the Dreamer, Zosma. Is Zosma the city or the planet? I think that's the city that Laszlo starts in. Is Eretz the planet? The planet in Strange the Dreamer after the events of Strange the Dreamer and Muse of Nightmares? That's the one I'm going to pick. I'll go there if I can bring my wife. Question 12, is there a newly released book you wish you had when you were younger? I don't think so. Maybe the Guinevere Deception would have hit really nice. I kind of had like a not like other girls phase where I was trying to be kind of being like a nerd pick me. And I think the Guinevere Deception would have been really good for me to like internalize at that time. So maybe that. But other than that, I can't really think of any. Like I love the moments that books have come into my life. Yeah, I still read middle grade. I still read young adult. So that doesn't really matter to me. And I think there was something going through all the 90s books that I read. It's nice to have the books that we have now. And I'm excited to read more of the stuff on my TBR. But I don't think there are any books that I would have liked to have read at a younger age. Those are all the questions that Carrie included on the tag. This was super fun to do. I loved looking back at the books that I read in the past. Thank you so much for watching and have a great night, universe.